start with, I'll start current, then I'll go back, and then I'll come back. My title is Executive Director of Strategy Deployment and Business Transformation out of the Office of the Provost. So I have a direct report to what they call the executive team here, which is the highest levels of the organization. I report to the president, I report to the chief operating officer, and like I said, my direct report is the provost, who's the academic lead for the entire university. Some of the things that I do on campus, my team is a team. If you walk around and you've seen Howard Ford, got this button too. My team created the 4-year strategic plan. I led them in 2024, called Howard Ford Strategic Plan for the University for the best HBCU. I think, in my opinion, because I work for Howard, obviously. I also do, if any of you are familiar with business process improvement, Lean Six Sigma, process improvement, continuous improvement. So essentially what that means is I make things better on campus. So if there's a department or an area that needs room for improvement, pedagogy, what they're doing with their department, I come in and I help them out. Now I'll go all the way back. So I mean, I grew up in the hood. Just again, I'm gonna keep it a stat. I grew up Delavan and Bailey, Newburgh, Cold Spring. My grandmother lived in East Utica in Michigan. Predominantly, my high school was Newburgh and Delavan and Bailey. I literally went to 4 different high schools. I went to Seneca. Then I got kicked out of Seneca, and I went to Alternative on Sycamore and Sobieski. It was a little small satellite site that was a church. So it was literally only like 20 kids. We were so bad. They kicked us out of there, and then me and a couple of my friends kicked us out, closed the site, and moved us to Maine and Oakwood. I think now it's apartments. It's like luxury condos. So that was the main alternative building. So that was my 3rd high school. So I tried to rotate back to Seneca, but Mr. Valen, who's the principal at the time, was like, Shomari, it's a wrap. You are not coming back here. You close the one trouble. So I went to Bennett High School with Ms. Whitman. I don't know if some of the folks in the room know about Ms. Whitman, who used to chase people down in high heels. And I'm a move from the podium. I'm jittery. I like to walk. So I went to Bennett, and literally my very first day at Bennett, I had a fight in the cafeteria. Like, it was crazy. So I was not the perfect student growing up. And why do I tell you that? Sometimes in life, you're going to go underwater. But that doesn't mean that you're going to drown, right? I had a teacher, her name was Miss Meshack, a white math teacher who also was my track coach. Now, sitting in the back in high school, not paying attention, I was a senior in high school at Bennett, and I was taking algebra. My daughter is 14 and a sophomore. She's taking like AP Algebra 3. So that gives you an idea how I BS'd around in school. So Miss Meshack came over to me and she's like, listen, you all this cool and handsome and dressed nice and a thug, but really you're a real smart guy. Yeah, she did. That was right. I won best looking too. My senior year. FYI. So she came over to me and she's like, you are literally wasting talent. She's like, I can see how bright you are. You don't even pay attention to the lesson. But then when it comes time to do the work, you kill it. Like, you're half-assing this. So imagine if you put your whole foot into it. So I was like, you know what, that's okay. So I got to college. Actually, I applied to almost every HBCU I could. Morgan. I don't think I applied to Howard, which is crazy. Don't put that on the record. I applied to Howard, Josh. I got denied by everybody. Now, I grew up on UB's campus because I was in C-STEP, I was in STEP, I was in SB Junior. So UB was like home for me. I was like, I'm not applying to UB, I'm always at UB. So my mom's like, you 18, you about to get up out of here. So either you're going to be homeless or you're going to be on the dorm. So I applied to UB. Literally, every school denied me. My grades were so bad, every school literally turned me down. So Buck State came back and was like, yo, we're going to accept you. So just because I'm extremely competitive, I'm like, I'm going to Buck State. So UB came back, and they were like, well, we're going to take you, Shomari. I was like, I'm not messing with y'all. Y'all denied me the first time. It's over. I'm going to Buck State. My mom was like, that's a state, college. This is a university. I was like, I don't care. I'm stubborn as a kid. I was like, I don't care. I'm going to Buck State. They accept me. I got to Buck State. I was still doing the same things. I'll admit, I didn't start drinking until I graduated from college, well into my 20s, like late. All my friends, not to say it's okay to drink, but I didn't do anything. I just naturally was high. I was just partying on 1,000 all the time with my personality. I didn't do no drugs. I was crazy. I was funny. I didn't do anything. So my mom was like, well, as long as you do good in school, you're good. I got you. You know what I mean? Actually, this is how I got to Central Park, Richmond, right across the street from Central Park Plaza. She's like, I'm so proud of you. I bought you a house. She's like, here, take this house. It's 2 levels. My recommendation is you put a tenant upstairs, and then you live downstairs so you can bring some income in while you go to college. Of course, I didn't pay attention. Long story short with that, I bought a car, I painted it like yellow and gold, and I was killing it, and then my car got repossessed. But I'm off track. So I go to school, I'm BSing in school. I got a 1.98. The minimum is a 2.0, right? Like, I don't even know how I got a 1.98. So I go to the bursar, I go to register for class. It's like, Brandon. I'm like, what's going on? So they like, well, you gotta go to bursar, something's going on. So I go to bursar, they're like, sir, your bill's not paid, you can't register for class. I'm like, what do you mean I can't register for class? My mom pays for my school. So I called my dude, like, boo, what's good? I'm like, look, I can't register for class. She was like, why not, baby? I was like, well, they said the bill not paid. She said, I told you, if you fail, I wouldn't pay your bills no more. I was like, oh, you really didn't pay it, Mom? Wasted my money. I said, okay. I was like, well, what am I supposed to do next? You bought me a house. I mean, you paid for the first, I think this was the second semester. So you paid for the first year. What's I supposed to do? She said, you're going to take your bunch of financial aid. So I go to financial aid. They taking my social security number, dang near blood and fingerprints. Like, I mean, Jesus. Got me a loan. The very first time they gave me that money, and I had to then give it to them, it got real. Like, I gotta give you my money. Like, I gotta pay you to be in class. And then I had to buy a $65 or $75 book as opposed to some J's or a gold chain or something. I was in class like, sir, I got a question. I paid for class. No, you're not leaving. Class is over in 5 more minutes. You're going to instruct some more. I need more instruction. I need to know. Now, I never lived on campus. I stayed in CP, and I was pretty connected to campus, but I still didn't have that feel yet. So I joined National Society of Black Engineers, I think in my junior year, or maybe my second semester, sophomore year. But I was going with the University of Buffalo because my brother, he got accepted to UB and went to UB. We grew up engineers our whole life, wanting to be engineers. So I started going to NSBE, National Society of Black Engineers, with my brother. We would go to these conferences, and to see all these black people doing really well that were really extremely smart as engineers and business majors and all of these competitions, it did 2 things for me. One, I was like, this is amazing, I should be doing this. And then 2, I was like, well, I don't feel at home because I chose to go to Buff State, and this is the University of Buffalo's chapter. So I came home, I talked to my folks, and I always had that divide in my life, right? So I had now my college friends, and I had my street friends, my hood friends, who always supported me, right? They would say, Shomari, you got class, get off the block, it's over, get out of here. Go, look, cops coming, get out of here, go to class, you're a college boy, don't get out of here. So I went to my street friends as opposed to my college friends, and I said, listen, I want to start this National Society of Black Engineers, and blah, 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 blah. They're like, well, tell me about it. So I explained it to them, and I told them about all the things that it does, and they had a different mental, right? Because one thing I used to say to some of the folks when I spoke to adult audiences was, when I was on the corner in jeans and they were hanging off my butt and sneakers and my hat fitted, y'all didn't talk to me. But then y'all found out I was eloquent and I put a suit on and y'all wanted to have this conversation with me. There are a lot of folks who don't necessarily look like what they are, and or the reverse, right? Our president, he is a triple alum from Howard. He's a surgeon, not just a doctor, he's a surgeon, one of the best in the country. And he says when he comes with his suit on and he heads into the hospital, it's yes sir. But if he stood across the street in a hoodie, what would they think he was? Right? It's about perception. So I go back to my hood friends who always kept it real with me. Not that my college friends didn't, but they understood a different dynamic, right? And they knew that they wouldn't necessarily ever be there, and they wanted to strive for the best for me. So they literally, it was real easy. They're like, yo, stupid, just do it. I was like, they have to call me stupid. Okay, I'll go do it. So I started the chapter, National Society of Black Engineers at Buff State College, and we were amazing. We had a blast. My family over here, she can tell you, we were a chapter that was this big and made this much noise. We won awards from the time we started the chapter till a couple years after. Buff State actually named an award after me, and then awarded me the award with my name on it. So when people come to my office, they be like, wait, so Shomari James got the Shomari James Award, and then I just get clowned all the time. I was like, well, I was the first time to read it. They gave it to me first. But the reason I give you that pass, which is not one that's just silver spoon in his mouth, straight and narrow, doing the right thing, is because oftentimes that's not how we grow up, right? But that doesn't mean that you can become, and do the things that I'm doing now. I have a story which kept me on track. My dad literally was non-traditional. I would come home in high school and he'd be in the kitchen cooking. Right? I had other friends. My mom had some friends where the roles were reversed. Right? The wife would typically cook. But my dad was like, I ain't about this work life, but I like to cook. So I may not work nights, but one thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna feed my family. So I would always come home and see this image of my dad taking care of his family, doing meals. And what he would say to me was, Shomari, I don't care. As long as it's legal, make as much money as humanly possible. Become rich, become wealthy. We didn't set you up to become wealthy. So make sure you earn as much as you possibly can. Then my mom was like, well, while you making all that money, let me teach you how to balance a checkbook. Let me make sure you stay in school. Then my father-in-law now, who was my girlfriend's father at the time, because we've been married 16 years now, together 26, we met at in high school. He was like, well, you know what? Once you make all of this money, I'm gonna show you what a 10,000, 15,000 square foot house with an elevator in it looks like. I'm gonna let you drive my Range Rover to the prom with my daughter in it, so you can see, not being materialistic, but so you can have vision on what this money can do for you. Then I have a mentor named Roger Strother who celebrated his 80th birthday a few months ago. He was at 4th for me. He said, okay, well, let me give you a vehicle by which you can earn money. So he started pushing me into investing in the stock market. So I teach financial education. I have a nonprofit organization called Equity Now. We are opening a charter school in Prince George's County in August of 2020. We're gonna accept kids from K through 8, and then we're also gonna open up a high school. But back to my mentor, he said, listen, you own property, you can have a resume, you can do all of these things, but you know what? At the end of the day, if you want to grow your hair out and you want to wear tattoos and you want to go get a job, you got to sit across the room from that individual and let them make that decision. If you have a house and you want to buy a house, you got to go talk to a lawyer, you got to have tenants, you got to fix toilets. There's a lot of different things that you could do to earn income legally. But he said, my path for you to success is investing in the stock market. Now, I was dabbling here and there. I was buying UPS stock and going in and doing some trading here and there with my 401k, but nothing of the magnitude. So I'm going to pause and preface this with, this is my story, not to brag, but to show you the power of investing in the stock market and what that means, and don't hesitate to stop me if you have questions. So I jumped into the stock market head first because it's just my personality, and I lost probably like $5,000 to $10,000 in her. I was like, oh, this ain't gonna work. So I called my mentor, he laughed at me. He's like, I told you not to spend that much money. He said, but now you know how much you can stomach to lose. So either you're gonna go in fully or you're gonna back out and you're not gonna do it anymore, and I'll still love you either way. So I went back in and I bought a stock called DSW. Anybody familiar with DSW? Shoe store. So I bought DSW. The reason I bought the stock is because I literally was worse than my girlfriend at the time. I probably had 15 to 20 pair of shoes. Every new Pumas, whatever they brought out that was at a discount, I bought it. I said, well, let me invest in the company that I always invest in. So follow me. I bought that stock at about $10. So I kept buying it anywhere from $10 to $15 here and there. Kept buying it over and over and over. One day that stock went from that $10 share price to $60, right? So now you just do the math on that. However many shares I own, I bought it at $10, now it's at 60, you do the math. Let's just say that's $1,000, right? So now it did what's called a split. It's $60, it's split 2-for-1. So now each share is $30. And then it went back up. Now I said that really fast. Now what that means is my $1,000 is now $3,000 or $2,000, depending on how high it goes. So I said, okay, this is pretty fun and easy. Now, I'm at HBCU. I told y'all I grew up in the hood. We can't, as the culture, we can't be racist, but I'm prefacing, I'm for my people. I'm not here to knock anybody else, but I love black and brown people, which includes Latin Americans, and we are not the minority, right? We are the majority. If you look, the world is brown. It's just these white folks have deemed and coined this term minority. We are not the minority, but again, I digress. Saying all that to say, I said, so I can make money while I'm working and sleeping and don't have to deal with any Caucasian Americans. And so then I took some money, I had a property, I sold my property. Sold my property, I bought Apple. How many people have an iPhone? Looks like more than 90% of the room. Check this out. I have a Samsung phone. I don't do Apple at all. I don't do Apple at all. But guess what though? When folks start firing shots about Droid, I likely have in my portfolio, if I checked it today, probably over $200,000 in liquid from Apple stock. Period. I love Apple. I don't use their products. I mean, I guess my work phone is the iPhone, but I be ignoring that like crazy. So how did I do that? I went in and I started buying Apple. My investor mentor said, you know what, Shomari, this train is not going. Buy Apple at $89. I didn't. I went in, I sold the house. I literally bought the stock at $600 a share. It's very expensive. I went to my wife and I said, listen, boo, if this don't work, we're gonna be doing oodles and noodles. Like it's gonna be Raymond for real if this don't work out, man. You okay with this? She's like, no, but go ahead, let's do it. I trust you. So it was $600. It was literally $599.95. I just say $600. When I bought it, my mentor said, don't worry about it, calm down. Again, I sold the house, took thousands of dollars from selling the house, and I bought this stock at $600 a share. Literally less than 3 weeks later, it split 7-1. Now remember, I just gave you that math before. So 7-1, the original split, you don't make money in, right? Because it's 7 divided by that 600. Now the stock price goes down. Now you have 7 times your shares. So then I took another piece of that money. I took another set of money that I had that I was just storing away, and I bought more of it. Then it went back up. I think Apple is now $200. I woke up one day and didn't know what I was looking at. I looked at my wife and I said, she was like, what's wrong with you? I said, I think there was an account error in our account. Something ain't right. So this ain't right. So she took the phone, didn't really know what she was looking at. I was like, well, it looked green to me. It looked like money to me. I'm good. You good? I said, yes. So I kept investing. The power of investing. I got into a little bind with my house. I moved in 2009. I moved from Buffalo. We came here, packed up. I said my brother had left. He graduated from UB, went straight to New York City. He got family in Brooklyn. My other brother bounced. He went straight to Houston. I said, Mom, I love you, but I gotta go. I'm sick of having salt rims on my pants from the snow. I was literally working at UPS as an engineer. I had a Range Rover. The car wouldn't start because it was a wind tunnel. It was like negative 20 degrees. I was like, this just is not. Pipes kept busting in my house. I was like, I'm tired. So we packed the whole house up. God is good. The day that I was leaving to quit my job at UPS, they offered me a buyout. Then that same day, Nestle, who was here in Laurel, Maryland, offered me a position and paid entirely for my move. So I came down here and I said, well, you know what I'm going to do? I got this money that I didn't play. I'm gonna put this money into the market. I'm gonna go ahead. I'm gonna dump this cash in here, and I'm gonna see what's gonna happen. So my mentor called me, and he was like, listen, I want you to invest in this stock. He said, but I want you to take a little piece of it. Like it's this company, you know, there's no insider trading, but they in Florida, they doing well. You go ahead and go in. So I went in and I bought the stock. So I said, okay, I'm gonna go ahead, I'm gonna buy this stock. I stayed in it for about 6 months to a year. He called me, said, I'm out. I'm leaving the stock, I'm out. It's about to start going down, I believe. I'm out of here. I said, nah, bro, I'm making a whole lot of money. I'm staying in it. So I stayed in it like a week more. I felt great. I came out of there with, I think about $15,000 to the good, I'll take that. My mentor, he came to town. So when he came to town, he came to visit me at my house. And then we got into the house. I was like, that's a nice car you drive. What's good? He said, oh, remember that stock that I told you to buy? It was called Swisher, SWSHR, I believe. He said, that convertible BMW, I bought so much of that. I bought that. I gave them half of the money down and then gave them the other half just so they can give me a loan just so I can have credit. But I paid $100,000 for the car. I just told them to hold on to the money. He made so much money on that stock, he bought a convertible 6 Series BMW. Again, I don't say this to brag. It ain't my BMW. It's his. This is the power of understanding financial education. You see, there's a achievement gap, especially with black and brown boys in this country, period. And then there's also a wealth gap in this country. So you have these politicians who talk about make school free or college free and give black people this and give black people that. I'm sick of white folks standing up at a podium talking about what black people need. Don't put a community park in the community if I didn't ask for a community park. Period. Come ask me what I need. So I started to change that narrative because I'm really aggressive. I'm a Gemini. May 28th, I got my angry side, then I got the good side, and it balanced me out most times. But sometimes it just don't work out, and I've been kicked out of a lot of places in my life. So I said, how can I communicate this? So I started teaching financial education. It's key because if we're going to close this achievement gap, we need to also simultaneously close the wealth gap. So what we did with our school, every single kid that comes to our school, what we're going to do starting in kindergarten, they're going to get a bank account, they're going to get a stock account, and we're going to give them $25 to start investing in the market at 4 years old. Now think about it. I started in like 2000, 2001, and I've had a ton of success. I copied my mentor. My wife told me I'm short on vitamin D because the sun not hitting, I need a convertible. So I went, cashed some stock out, and bought a convertible. And I bought it for her. Period. Happy wife, happy life. Again, I don't say that to brag, I just say that it's the power of investing. But back to my point. What we need to do is get back to controlling our own finances and our own destiny. I'm no longer about trying to sit at somebody else's table. I'm building my own table. And while I'm building my own table, I'm teaching other people how to build their table. Because if I look to the left, there are those who I have surpassed and I've come up a ladder of success that I'm still rising up, that I need to hold that ladder tight and teach y'all and them to come up that ladder. But I also look on the right, and there's folks that got me way deep. Tyler Perry is in a 330,000 acre studio that rivals Disney, Lionsgate, everything all together. Mind you, was built on a conservative, think about that. This land was a Confederate, 330 acres of Confederate land where they were planning how to keep black people oppressed. And now it is a central hub for wealth for black people owned by one Negro. That's what I'm talking about. So those folks, that's where I'm trying to get. But while I'm trying to get there, I'm also bringing people with me. So I'm going to stop there. Again, I fundamentally believe in financial education. I'll be an open book. I'll answer any questions you want. But ultimately, where you sit right now is where I sat at one point in my life, and I was bad as hell. I was a beast. Saying that to say that one day you'll be here in my spot.
How much money do you know to invest into a company?
Good question. So experts will break down the formula, and I'll say, it's a feeling, right? So you take a look, and there's two things. There's your budget number, which is why this is not just about investing in the stock market. It's about understanding finances. One number is how much can I live? How much can I take out of my daily living expenses and apply it to the market? That may be $20, right? But if I lost that $20 over a year, would I die? So those are two different numbers. So it's a number you can stomach to lose and a number you can afford to lose. And then once you figure that out, you say, okay, if I lost this whole $20 over a year, I would be okay because you know what? I would be spending that on Starbucks anyway. and it fits your budget, that's the number that you go with. Does that make sense? Good question. I think this lady in the back is first.
How do you charge for the stuff?
Good question. So this question actually is a super long answer because I add to it. The super short answer is you literally go to your, however you're on your device, whatever you use in E-Trade, Fidelity, etc. You click sell and it goes right into your account. But here's the thing about stock, and this is what they don't teach us. So even when you lose money in the stock market, you still win. So let's say I make $50,000 a year. The government taxes me at $50,000 a year, right? So I gotta pay, let's say, $10,000 on that $50,000. But let's say, true story, I have GE stock, and my mentor calls me and says, Shomari, I know you love this stock. I'm only calling you to sell. Get out. Tell me you done sold this stock. I did, Raj. Sell the stock now. Get off the phone with me and sell the stock. Boom, sold the stock. Now, let's say I sold that stock at a $10,000 loss. Because at one point it was 20,000, now it's at 10, so I lost $10,000 in that stock. But let's say I have enough liquid in that stock to where it gives me $5,000. So I pulled $5,000 cash, I lost $10,000 because I sold, and I made $50,000. I'm gonna bring that all together. Now I go to the government and I say, you taxed me at 50K, but I lost 10,000 on my stock. So now you can only tax me at 40,000. So if at 50,000 I had to pay $10,000 in taxes, well at 40,000 I might only pay $2,000 in taxes or $3,000 in taxes. So not only do I have 5K in my pocket, I'm also putting out less money to the government because I don't want a refund, right? If you get a refund check, then you're doing something wrong with your CPA, pending the amount. It depends. There's some nuances, but anyway. So the point of that is, even when you lose, you win because the government always coming for their money. So what rich people do, they find a way to make themselves lose money. So what's the full name? Bezos? Jeff Bezos from Amazon, right? Billionaire. Even though he's a multi-billionaire, he's probably taxed like a millionaire. Because what he does is he probably has let me keep it legal, I'm not gonna say he's doing anything illegal. He probably has companies where he's getting write-offs for his companies. So even though he's worth $1 billion, he's getting taxed at millions. And that's the difference between paying the government millions of dollars or multi-millions of dollars. Does that make sense? What was the question up here?
So let's say you want to get into the stock, which is like a good start.
What I tell folks, what I tell everybody, if I say folks your age, 90% of you raised your hand and said y'all had an iPhone. Buy Apple stock. Buy what you use. Become owners of this country. I will probably melt away with emotion the day I walk through the hall of my school and I hear my students clowning somebody who actually went and spent $300 on J's, and they say, you bought $300 Jordans? I spent $300 on a stock. I am going to faint. Like, they better get the defibrillator because I'm falling out. So we as the culture, we are a multi-billion-dollar industry. In the Jewish community, the dollar changes hands 12 times. Guess how many times it changes hands in the black community? Once. We are a billion-dollar industry, and we spend it on everybody else. So become owners. To answer your question, whatever your sunglasses is, you got Nike on. You got a Superman shirt on. That's Marvel. Actually, I think so. No, that's
DC.
Yeah, DC Comics. So you look at these companies and you say, listen, I'm already using these products. Let me go take a look and research them to see what their stock price is. If it's $10, you know what? I spend $30 a month on junk food. And then that's how you start to build what's called a watch list. And you just start paying attention and start looking. So what they do, I'm gonna throw they out there, what they do is they make it like it's this super complex formula that we just need to stay away from because it's so hard to learn. It's real easy. You buy low and you sell high, period. All that extra stuff, options, all that is extra. You pick a company. What's the average age in here? 18?
16.
I'm 16, I'm 15.
So my son is a freshman at Bowie State, HBCU up the road in Maryland. Sprint, and T-Mobile was approved by the Department of Justice to merge. I have been buying my son's Sprint stock since it was $3 a shot. He now has over 1,000 shares of Sprint stock. T-Mobile stock who bought them is at $60. Let's just split it. Let's just say he only gets $30 a share from $3 a share. Just do the math on it. He has 1,000 times 30. And he knows, but he's not even paying attention right now. So just take a look at what you're already supporting, and then when you walk into a McDonald's, you own McDonald's stock. You go see a movie, you own Lionsgate. You wearing Nikes, you own Nike stock. You love the iPhone and you want to clown folks with an Android, well then own Apple stock and then clown them like, yeah, I'm calling you because not only am I using the phone, I earn the stock and I just make some money on my dividends. That's why I'm calling you. Any other questions?
Would it be smart to invest into like a small business locally, or would you more so go towards high-end?
Good question. You mean invest in that business with your money or invest in the stock price of that business?
With your money.
I have to remember where I came from to answer that question. Before I really got heavy into the stock market, I had an entertainment company, a technology company, a website company, I have a real estate company, all those companies, tons of companies. So that was my answer 20 years ago. Yeah, start your business. My answer now is why? There's no overhead, there's no employees, there's no toilets to fix, you don't gotta talk to nobody but yourself. If you're gonna take that same $1,000 and put it into a business, take that $1,000 and put it into the market. So my answer now is a little bit different than if you asked me a few years ago. So don't take it as it's bad to invest in a business. I got into a spirited discussion with, I won't call his name out, but y'all know I'm living me. So that's your cousin? Okay. Good people. I got into a real spirited debate with him on Facebook. Like we were going at it. So it was a good Gemini on it. I'm like, listen, young blood, I'm not arguing with you about your business. I think it's great you own your business. I think it's great your product is selling. I think it's great you got knives and you jeweled up. It's phenomenal, but that doesn't mean they're not mutually exclusive. Take some of that money and put it in the market. You got your I'm Living B shirt on, so I'm talking about. I said, just take some. So he kept coming. So that other Gemini came out. I said, bro, so then tell me what you're looking for. He's like, all right, well, if it makes so much money, show me 100,000 right now. Okay. I bought Amazon at 200. It's actually 2,000 right now. Here's 150 liquid. If I need this, you need me investing in you? You need this $150 right now? You want me to go cash this out? Because I can. I can. It's nothing. Trust me. And that's only a little bit. Because remember, I bought Amazon at 200 and it's now 2,000. So to show 100K on Facebook, I literally screenshot that part of my portfolio and say, here's 150 right here. Green. It's green means I can go to the bank and give $150 right now. Fast. So that is 100% not to say anything bad about him. I think his business is doing solid. I talked to him. I literally just bought my I'm Living B t-shirts for my wife's 40th birthday, and we rocked them when we went skating. Got crazy love for him. I got love for anybody from Buffalo. The point in that story is just where I am now in my life. I don't believe that you should not be investing even if you're doing something else. Take a little bit of money and put it to the side for investing.
You can start at any age.
Any age. So if you are under 18, you have to have what's called a custodial account. So your parents would have to start the account for you, but once it's started, you can manage your own account.
What about the apps like Acorn and that kind of thing? Can they put those on their phone?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So super dope question. And actually what just happened, which is why I believe in free market, which is why I'm vehemently against like Bernie and Warren, Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders. I believe in capitalism and free market. And here's an example of why I believe in that. So one of the companies, I don't remember who did it first, let's just say E-Trade. When I first started investing, it cost me about $15 per share to make a purchase. They've been getting into these bidding wars, and now it was down to like $3. Almost all the major companies right now have said, buy your stocks for free. Now, mind you, we heard all this news about 45, I'm not calling his name out, and all the stupid stuff that he did. We heard all this news about they wanted to talk to LeBron because China and all of this stuff that happened. We hear all this news about impeachment. We hear nothing about these zero fees, and it is Literally, as large as my portfolio is, or portfolios are, if I didn't have to pay fees when I first started, that literally equates to probably $250,000. Period. In fees, period. And y'all have the opportunity, so I'm gonna answer the question. You got Robinhood, and I can email this out later because I'll just throw it out. Robinhood, M1, E-Trade, Fidelity, they all have apps. SoFi is my favorite right now, even though I'm not using it, because they tie it to a whole credit package. So if you go to SoFi and you have loans or debt or whatever, they have a complete credit profile, and then once you're in with them, it's like a credit union. They'll just give you money. So SoFi is dope, but none of them pay me, so I'm not endorsing any. That's all right. I think here, then here and here.
So, like, would you think it would be like better to like invest in like an S&P 500 and compared to like just one individual company because like your money is like well spread out?
Woo, we get into the trick question. That's what I'm talking about. So her question is, should I invest in what's called the S&P, which is a collection of stocks as opposed to one stock? Absolutely, if you feel comfortable. So here is what folks who are on the other side of what I'm talking about. They say, well, Shomari, when you're teaching black people to invest in stock, you're teaching black people to jump into an extremely risky situation. Yes. The forewarning is everything that I talked about as far as how much money I made, that could have been the exact opposite way about money that I lost. Absolutely. The reason I still believe it is because it's slow, right? I'm not going to jump out there and buy 2,000 shares or something. I'm going to buy them over time. But what that's called is, great question, that's called single stock exposure. That leaves you out there. If you got that one stock and it does bad, you did bad. You got that one stock and it does good, you did good. So S&P or a collection of stocks, you buy a multitude of stocks. So you buy like 5 stocks for, you won't get it for $5, but I'm saying 5 stocks for $5. So if one of them goes to 50 cents, it doesn't destroy your entire portfolio. So what you could do is you can buy like what they call spiders. You can do like a 401k. So Samsung, because I own an Android phone, is not traded on a New York Stock Exchange. It's not here. You cannot buy Samsung stock in America off of the exchange. So what I do is I buy what's called a fund, which is a collection of stocks that has Samsung in it. So then I have less exposure. That's a phenomenal question. Thank you for the question. Here.
Cryptocurrency, what do you think about it?
So I bought crazy in the bit. I'm biased.
What is it first?
Oh, good question. Yes. So crypto. So the history. So crypto. So folks are always trying. Not folks. There is an opportunity to do things outside of government regulation, and people are tired of government regulation holding folks down. So there's a movement against government that shifted into currency, but prior to currency, it went to this technology that's called blockchain technology. Blockchain technology, in a nutshell, is each of you own a small piece of the data. So if my man, I apologize, is a hacker and hacks one, they don't get all of it. And then even if that's hacked, it changes. So therefore, each of you now will change. So the blockchain, think about a blockchain, it keeps the information cycling. So folks were like, yo, this blockchain technology is tight. What if we put currency over this blockchain? That means nobody owns it. That means the bank can't tell me what to do with my money. So now, boom, here's Bitcoin, boom, here's cryptocurrency. So cryptocurrency literally is blockchain technology applied to a currency. Answering the question, I made a lot of money in Bitcoin. The market is a person, right? The market has feelings, and when something is a wave, it's a wave. And sometimes with the market, you ride that wave. Me and my buddies all got together. We say, yo, here, everybody dropping 5K, everybody going in on blockchain. Everybody going in on Bitcoin. That sucker just went up and up and up and up. And the first minute, it just slightly went down. I was like, I want my money back. I'm getting out. I'm ready to go. They're like, no, you gotta stand, no. I'm like, no, man, I don't trust this Bitcoin stuff, man. And it went up and up and up and up and dipped again. And then it dipped. It was a higher dip, so I convinced some other folks. I started making phone calls because there was 9 of us. I was like, look, bro, I want you to be on my team when we get on a conference call, and you're on my side, and I buy you lunch, because I want my money. And they're like, all right, I'm on your side. So finally, long story short, we pulled out and made a lot of money in Bitcoin. Horrible move. It dipped, like the next 2 weeks, it dropped maybe 10 to 15 points, which is a huge swing in the market, and probably went up 40 points. So our money would have been almost done. So it's there, it's not going anywhere. I don't personally invest in it anymore, but by the time you all are married with children, it may be the way of the future.
Two questions.
Yeah.
One, like you said, you don't do Samsung, but do you
No, I love that.
I mean, you don't purchase, they don't, it's not sold.
Oh,
Do
okay.
you purchase, stock that they have something to do with Samsung, like the plastic they use to make the phones or the technology?
Great question. So, yes, and then it's actually, so I was looking at this article, and the iPhone was coming out with this new Flexi screen. So they were battling, Samsung and Apple were battling, and just because I like to fire shots at Apple because all my family uses Apple, I was paying attention. So Samsung was like, we're gonna come out with it first. So I was like, well, who gonna make it? Like Apple and Samsung don't make glass. So I'm from Western New York, Ithaca, Corning, like duh. So I went and I found Corning. I bought Corning is GLW. They recently had some troubles, and I might misquote the current stock price, but I bought GLW at about $8 because GLW was making all the glass for Samsung and Apple phones. I bought it at about $8. It exploded to about $50. And then it dropped down, and then it came down. So absolutely, you also take a look at what's around.
And what about Visa? You purchasing stock with Visa, Mastercard?
So I don't like banks and finance. My daughter owns Bank of America. After 2008 exploded, I got Bank of America for her for like $3 when she was like 6 or 7, and I held on to it. So I want to steal it from her now because she's killing it. But I personally, finance it's not my area. But Visa, Mastercard, Chase, they all, but they're kind of expensive too. I think one of them was like $175. So it's not a starter stock. Right here. Thank you.
What does it take to like get into the stock market?
Say it again.
Like, what does it take to get into the stock market?
To get into stock as a degree?
Yeah, like isn't it a degree like would you go to college for it?
No, because they don't want to teach it to us. But what you can do is you can go to like business school for finance or economics, and you can learn how the market works, and then have an understanding, education, and appreciation for the market. You'll be way better than I am at looking and assessing stocks because it's part of it. Like the School of B here, they do a stock simulation program, but they don't necessarily. It's hard to give you like a education on it, right? It's so many facets. It's day trading, it's options trading, it's strategy where you long term, it's dividends, you can spend 6 years at a university and never make any money learning about it. What my mentor used to say to me is, Shomari, you can't get wet watching other people swim. You got to jump in, even if it's $5. So you can do your research and find out where you fit best and what type of investor you are. My son, as much as I tried to get him to be a long-term investor with his own money, he started trading currency. I'm like, of course, my kid's gonna do the exact opposite of what I would do, right? That's almost day trading. Like he literally, if it moves 2 points, he made money. If it moves 2 points down, he lost money. He does currency. I'm long-term. I've literally owned my companies that I'm invested in for 5, 10, 15, 20, and 30 years.
Two questions for you. First one is, what is your thoughts on marijuana stock? Second one is, can you speak to the importance of collaborating and partnering? Because in Buffalo, we don't do that. We try to do everything on our own individually.
Yep.
And that's why our communities are falling apart because others come in and invest because they work together.
Yep.
And we do things individually.
Yeah, that's a good political question. I'm gonna answer the latter one first. I think part of the reason that I was in the battalion growing up, which I think is Jack and Jill organization, and it left an extremely bad taste in my mouth, to your point. I was a hood kid where my mom just had enough money to get me into the program, so I didn't fit, right? So they kind of stiff-armed me, and that wasn't cool, to your point about not collaborating. So I think we should, we absolutely can. The knowledge, the money, and the access is there now. Like, y'all have access to so much more than we ever had access to. Even if as a friend group, y'all have one app and everybody puts in $2 or $3 a day and start your own investing club. Literally, when you look up after 5 years, $2 a day on a dividend stock, the average rate of return over the last 30 years in the market is 10%. There is nothing that rivals that. Now, there are deals you can do where you make much more than that, but this is, I'm talking 30 years. So one day you'll wake up and be like, yo, we got a whole lot of money in here. So I think we are going to have to do it. What I seen growing up is there was an upper middle class of black folks in Buffalo that just didn't reach back. That just didn't say, hey, you know what I mean, you grew up in the hood, but let me show you this way, because I grew up on Dewey, and now I live, what they say, I grew up on Utica, now I live in East Amherst, but I'm never coming back to Utica ever again. So we have to be the ones to push past it. And then your second question was marijuana stock. So I'm extremely controversial with marijuana stock. And I'm extremely controversial about it because it's extremely controversial, and I'm in DC where literally, if y'all walk off campus to the left, you're gonna smell weed in the air. I guess, so it's not legal on campus, it's still federally not legal, but it's decriminalized in DC. So literally, I had to be in a position where I had to say, look, there are a lot of folks who I grew up with to this day that are still in jail over marijuana, and now white folks are making millions and billions of dollars off of marijuana. So one, I'm extremely liberal with the concept of marijuana. I don't smoke. I would smoke. I'm not against it. I mean, I'd probably try it, and I'm of age, y'all, for clarity, and it's legal, but I'm not a smoker, but I'm also not against it. So the reason I answer the question with that preface is I never invest in anything I don't believe in. I'll never invest in plastic straws. I'll never invest in nicotine. I'll never invest in plastic bags. So that's why I started the conversation with that. I believe in the power of what we can do with marijuana, so I would invest in it. Now, the practicality of it is still extremely volatile as a market. Caucasian folks are still trying to wrap their arms around how can they tax it and control it. So until they can tax it and control it, it's gonna be on this vicious cycle of one day it's up and one day it's down. So there's a pro and a con. Again, the Gemini in me, right? I don't want white folks to benefit off of it because I literally still have folks in jail who were selling pounds of weed when, so what, that's what they had to do because their mom was on drugs and on other drugs and they had a little sister and they had to pay the rent at 18 years old. So I put on my Facebook the other day, can criminals be ethical? I mean, you gotta do what you gotta do when your mom is on crack and you are literally 18 years old paying the bills. I'm not justifying drug dealing, don't hear me wrong. But sometimes folks just have to do what they have to do, which goes back to now in jail, and you got folks, white folks, making all this money off of it. So from the investing advice, I would find a company, there's THC, CBC, you know what I mean? There's different ways to invest in it. What they're first going at right now is the CBC, because you can walk into Walmart right now and grab it. You can grab CBC knee oil. My wife be putting the CBC knee oil because I got bad knees, right? So she was rubbing it all on my knee. But then the THC is what makes you high, right? So the CBC you have, and it gives you the same calming feeling without the high feeling. So there's a multitude of ways to get into it. I would just study it a lot before you got in it. And then yep.
As a youngster, if they wanted to start buying stock, what is the routine you want them to go through so they can pick and choose a good stock and invest?
Great question. So the first thing I would do is it starts with a strategy. So I'm a planner. I didn't even talk about my degrees. Somehow I got excited and passed that. So my degree is in industrial technology with quality assurance engineering, something like that. It's a long degree because Buck State had to fake it kind of because they couldn't offer the actual industrial engineering degree, but they could offer the quality engineering. So it's like industrial technology, quality assurance engineering. So I am an industrial engineer. Thank you. We love it. To be an engineer, you can go anywhere in the world, so pick engineering. Then I have my master's in business. I'm Lean certified, which is problem solving methodology, and I'm Six Sigma certified, which is problem solving methodology. And I've been studying strategy my whole life. So I'm biased to that. If you pick a good strategy first, you are going to be successful. Because if you don't pick a good strategy, regardless of what stock, you can land up lucky, but you'll start to stray from your stock. So you say, hey, listen, I'm 16 years old, and my strategy is I'm not going to look at my stock every day. I'm going to look at it once a month over the next 3 years, and I'm going to buy a company that I believe in, which is Apple, and I'm only going to take the money that I get from graduation, birthdays, etc. That's a good strategy. Then from there, after you set your strategy, you then start to look inside within and say, what do I'm not going to look at nanoconductors, because I'm never going to run into a place where, like, it's a nanoconductor, right? Like, find something that you're interested in and that you know about, so that you're going to pay attention to it, whether it's McDonald's or Nike or Apple, etc. And then you want to train your mind around what used to be boring. So, I just came back from Houston. I flew to Houston to go to a Wu-Tang concert. I'm a Wu-Tang fan. I love hip hop. However, in the morning, I don't listen to hip hop. I really don't listen to the morning shows. I listen to boring Bloomberg. Now, I'm gonna keep it 100. It took me probably about 20 years to get here, but now my brain is trained to just listen to what they're talking about. Because every little thing that 45 is doing is affecting the market. And if you have money in stocks, then you want to start listening to that stuff. And again, nobody's going to walk over and hand it to you and say, hey, here's $100 in stock, and then watch it, and I guarantee that $100 in 5 years is going to be $10,000. So you got to start wrapping your brain about the concept of not just investing in the stock market, but financial education.
So, we want to thank Mr. James. Now we're going to ask the president to do wrap up. I thank him personally.
Yeah, on behalf of the whole chapter and our students, one of the things that we always find interesting is when we come across people that have a love to talk to young people. And saying that, it is always nice to have a connection. And your connection being in Buffalo, your story, the area that you grew in, the struggles, the reality of life is so beneficial to some of them. Because for some of them, one person, two persons, if you reach one, you save the generation.
Okay.
And so I appreciate you, all my chaperones. I think they got something out of it, and I hope you guys are going to do. Yeah,
And the only thing I'll leave with is I encourage, so there's two things in Lean Six Sigma. It's called Yuki and Hansai. Yuki is courage. And that's having the courage and your conviction to believe you can do whatever the hell you want to do. You are descendants of kings and queens, period. But then there's Hansai. And Hansai is humility. I struggle with humility. I'm admitted. Folks call me arrogant. They call me all these different names. I pray on it. I'm working on it every day. But my testimony is I'm loud and boisterous to show you what you can be. Period. Now, not what you can be as far as loud and boisterous, but where you can be in life. Period. So Yuki is courage. Have the courage to do whatever you want to do, but do it humbly. Very last thing is I'm all over social media. So I'll deliver. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Instagram. I'm on Snapchat. I'm on all social media. I'm everywhere. I gotta follow my kids. That's one reason why. And then my businesses as well. So if you ever need to reach me, I never, ever, ever turn away a conversation. I wish you all the best.